Right, back live tonight here on In Focus, looking further west on the African continent still. Nigeria reported a national grid collapse. It follows a blaze on a major transmission line that resulted in widespread blackouts. Power generation in the West African nation, West African gas and oil producing nation, fell to zero in the early hours of this morning. But authorities are saying that power supply is slowly returning. Now joined by energy expert Dr Toyosi Craig for more on that conversation. Good to have you, Dr. Toyosi, and thank you very much for your time. Nigeria's electricity distribution company reporting a total system collapse. You know, in South Africa, we've been warned of this total system collapse, that it could happen, but it seems it happened in Nigeria. What was the cause? What was behind that?
Thank you so much for having me. It's not news in Nigeria, actually. The authorities are saying there was a fire in one of their generation plants and that brought out some low frequency or whatever they've said. But it's no news. Last year they had a couple of grid shutdown. So I think the system and the people itself are getting used to being in the blackout. But yeah, this time around they say it was fire. But there's a lot of reasons why that has been happening in Nigeria over the years. But interestingly, recently they said for 1 year there has not been grid collapse, and then I think they're just trying to welcome the new minister with the blackout that recently.
So they say
actually lasted
a tripping grid is nothing new in Nigeria. So has the nation found a way of dealing with a complete system collapse? How does it disrupt, for example, the functioning of the economy?
It's a real impact on the economy. And for example, that's why we have been saying that South Africa cannot afford such, because the Nigerian system somehow has been wired for everybody to have backup, right? So it's a bit easier, kind of. What has been done now is there's a lot of rehabilitation that the government here has been going on. But the major causes of this is because the systems are aging. And while we believe there's a lot of new innovation that needs to be done, but the economy is coping in terms of course, there's a lot of losses when you have such scale because it was national. But we're lucky this time around, kind of happened not in the peak period. It was close to the middle of the night. So it would have been worse if it happened in the day. And that's the fear. That what if it happens? And of course, the economic effect cannot be overemphasized. I mean, only God knows how many hospitals doing operation in those periods could have been gone offline.
It would be confusing to some to hear this conversation, to say, we're speaking about one, an oil-rich country, but two, a gas producer. Why is Nigeria having energy issues?
It's a complex beast. It's both technical and political. It's been like that for ages. We grew up, all of us, as a Nigerian, you grew up knowing like what is called up NEPA, which means like when there's load shedding, when power comes back, we often say up NEPA. So we thought it was normal until most experts left the country and realized that actually it's not normal. So over the years, Nigeria has only 4 gigawatts of electricity. Let me just give you a comparison. That's for 200 million people. South Africa has 50, which is still giving problem for 50 million people. So you can imagine the scale. It's ridiculously too low. And then even that 4 gigawatts for 200 million people, the authorities say we only need 30. But even the 4 gigawatt, the electricity transmission, which is the main problem of Nigeria, is not able to carry it. It's been aged. Experts are speaking, and it's also an advice to the new minister and everybody, like, while you are trying to create new generation, we need the wires is what I mean. The transmission line is a problem. Now we think because it's going old, it can't continue like this. After this has happened, I'm not sure we can afford another incident. If one plant has fire and the whole country is thrown into massive blackout, what if there is wind event, or what if there is massive event if it's more than one plant that goes offline? So that's the issue. Over the years, because of changing experts and changing government, so it's just a matter of engaging the expert. The company has the experts, both home and abroad, and I think it's just the will in the aspect of the sitting governance that will make it happen.
Yeah. So you're saying because of the grid power's erratic nature and the frequency with which the grid trips, Nigeria is designed such a way that, or in fact, it forces, one would say, every household and business to have backup of some sort, I would presume, from one conversation I've
Yes,
had, it's generators, right?
Yeah, yes. So you can't build a capex, you can't build a company in Nigeria without factoring the generator cost into it. It's a must.
Yeah.
It's a must. You can't. Even a house, you can't have a house. No matter how poor you are in Nigeria, you have a generator. Otherwise, you are not able to charge your phone. And so that's the challenge, because the culture has been built around it. And if it has been like, for example, if this scale happened in South Africa, there's still a lot of minimal number of people that have backup. And for example, all the ATMs in Nigeria kind of have a backup systems with them. You get, because you don't know when the electricity will go off. Now the problem is, when it's a total grid shutdown, no matter how prepared you are not prepared for such scale. And the problem is, there are some PV plants, if you have some solar PV, that are grid connected. So when they are grid connected, even the solar don't work at that period, because they use the national grid as a reference, even though they are not taking power from it. So that's why it's also a problem. No matter how the economy is prepared and people have generator, it always have economic impact. And this is not something to learn from African countries, because it's a 20, 40 years problems in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So if any African country is treading in that line, it's a very dangerous path. That if you check what happened in Venezuela and some other countries, it resulted to like 40, 50 deaths, which are counted because of national shutdown. So it's not something advisable.
So the decision by President Tinubu, for example, to remove the fuel subsidy in May could have certainly had a massive impact on those households, especially using those backup generators.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I remember my parents now, how much they used to power their house, even my own house, how much I used to power my house now is going to like, I think 5 times how much you used before. So hence, of course, it's also forcing kind of adoption of new technology such as solar. But then you have to pay more money because you have to make island solar, which means you have to use some kind of inverters that don't need the grid at all. So you have to kind of be a local government. Each house in Nigeria is almost like a local government. You have your own power. But yes, the government said they are trying to encourage the use of gas and other means, and which is an ongoing technology. And the safety is a bit there. You can't be using gas for cars. You can't be using gas for houses. While we are transiting to new economy, I think people are getting used to it now, because like we said, you can't live without power. Just imagine a load shedding of 20 hours a day. So it's not something you can deal with. So people are trying to get used to it, and we hope it eventually helps the economy.
Yeah. So far, what have been the politics around the building of new power plants and basically installing new energy capacity? I believe the installed capacity now is 12,500 megawatts, which is far low compared to what South Africa is looking at. But the president is saying they're going to be a little bit serious now about building new power plants, a process which has been sluggish so far.
Yeah, it's been interesting. You liken the power plants in Nigeria to like the 5th IPP runs in South Africa, which has been always talk like we'll do it now, we'll do it now, we'll do it now. While the Nigerian capacity is actually 12.5 gigawatt now installed, the transmission line itself cannot even take the whole power, even if all of them come online. So my encouragement and what I would say is, yes, there's politics around it. People are trying. At least there are a lot of electrification for the rural areas, but those are small, mini and micro grid. But for the main industrial areas itself and the main large suburbs, of course, we still need more. It's like I just always say, they need to realize that this is a state of emergency. Because power plants are actually not built in a day. You still need to do feasibility studies. You still need to do a lot of things and then close the business. Financial closure is still something you are looking at. So if they really want this, it's just 4 years, government. So if you really, really have to do it, my encouragement to the new minister and everybody is bring the experts on board. Because what I've realized is also, putting round peg in square holes. But I've learned over the years that politics is politics. It doesn't matter who is the minister. So far, the will is there, right? I heard something yesterday. Nigeria used to have issues with passport, apparently because the new minister announced that he wants this done they've been calling people to get passports, which is news in Nigeria. So if the minister's body language shows that the sector is going to be revitalized, I'm sure everybody will fall in line. Even investors will come on board. And then, yes, it's a lot of investment that will bring to Nigeria. We need to double that in the next 1 to 1.5 years if we really want to do anything at all that will have impact.
Dr. Toyosi Craig, appreciate your time, energy expert there on the situation in Nigeria there. Reports saying that less than 50% of Nigeria's population has access to regular power supply. Most homes and businesses have resorted to generators, inverters and other sources of electricity so as not to be dependent on the grid, which is known to collapse quite frequently.